Alright, what's up guys? So to start off with, I'm not going to be uploading videos for a few days after this unless I decide to record multiple videos, which I know I'm not going to do. I'm just going to be busy, probably won't be streaming either, but I will be back before the wipe and I'll upload a couple more videos and I will be streaming. But with that being said, to get right into the video, this is going to be a guide on trios. Not, not necessarily anything about like the trios PvP. Well, I mean, I guess technically it's like a trios PvP thing, but it's just in general going to be how to get into trios, right? Because we have a new wipe coming up. Especially I think one of the big things about this, the reason I make this video is, as I'm sure you guys have read, they have mentioned removing duos. And wait, don't immediately go comment, oh, they're not removing duos. They said they were thinking about it because Oliver is mad. Yeah. However, with how the game currently is, something is going to have to happen, and I'll probably I actually might make a separate video about this after this. I'm not sure. It depends how long this video takes. But basically, something is going to have to be done. The current state of the game cannot be maintained, where we have solos, duos, trios, two queues for each, six queues open at all times per region. It's not sustainable for the game how it is right now. In the long run, if the game gets a ton of players, once it gets on Steam and everything, maybe duos comes back, or solos comes back, or whatever they decide to do. But that's not what this video is about. I'll talk about that in a different video. But basically, I think, let's just assume, right now, let's assume that there are duos players that aren't going to have duos to play and they want to get into trios. Well, this is the video for you. Or, new or returning players, solos players that want to get trios, anything. Because, I mean, anybody could use this. So, to start off with, the two most important things when it comes to playing trios, one is the people you play with. And I'm gonna be honest with you, finding people to play with, it's not easy, right? That's the hardest thing about getting into trios. That is the number one barrier that you have to break through to get into playing trios, finding people to play with. And I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, well, just do this, because I don't have a way of telling you to find people. I don't. There's like LFG groups. I mean, that's you can go through there. I know people that do LFG sometimes. Sometimes has success, sometimes it doesn't. Kind of 50-50 on what happens. Get your friends to play the game. I've heard that, so something they've mentioned is that in the next wipe, we're going to have some sort of queue system where, like, if you queue up a solo, like queue up trio solo, it'll match you with two players. So, there's that. However, just, I am going to speak on this a little bit more, not specifically finding the players, but what you do after you get the players. And, or with that being said, like I said, I can't really tell you how to find players to play with. I mean, I can give you suggestions like I just did. However, at the end of the day, finding players, like I said, it's a difficult thing to do. But if you want to play trios, it's what you have to do. So moving on from that, the players you find to play with. One thing, the number one thing you want to find players is trust. Find people you can trust to play with. And the number two thing, because these are only two important things, there are two important things that comes to finding players. One is trust. Two is find people you have fun with. Because there's going to be a lot of times in this game where you're not winning and you're losing. You want people that you are just having fun with. Because at the end of the day, even if you want to be competitive in this game, it is still a game. So your goal is to always have fun, right? Like, even me, somebody that's super sweaty at the game, I still only play with people I enjoy playing with. Like, there are people, like, I could play with some of the best players in the game, but if I don't have fun with them, what's the point, right? Like, one of my main teammates is still one of my best friends that I've been playing with since I started this game back in playtest 3, right? It's just how it is. Always try to look for people you have fun with. And obviously that's self-explanatory. If you have fun with them, you have fun with them. I can't really I can't really speak much on that. That's kind of up to you. However, trust, that is something I could speak on a little bit more because this is something that you kind of need in every competitive game. This is not a Dark and Darker exclusive thing. Any game that you play competitive that has teamwork involved, you're really gonna need trust. I'm a MOBA player. I have a MOBA background. I think so. This is really big for me. And like I said, I'm gonna go into this a little bit more later on, but specifically just gonna talk about it right now. You just want someone that you feel confident playing in. You feel confident that they can do their parts and they're never going to be dragging you down. That sounds bad, however, it's how it is, right? Sometimes people will, like, if they mess up, they will drag you down. And if people make a mistake every now and then, that's fine. Everybody does it. I do it. The people I play with does it. Everybody you've ever watched, they make mistakes every now and then. That's fine. Making a mistake isn't cause to not trust someone in a game, right? However, if they are, making a mistake, like let's say a mechanical error, like say you missed a spell or you missed a swing or a heal or whatever, you missed something. That is a small mechanical mistake. That's not something that's going to be like, oh, this guy's awful. I can never play with him. I mean, if they're missing every one of them, then obviously, maybe it's a bit more of an issue. However, if they're like, the rare time they missed a heal, you lost a fight because of it, or they missed a swing, you didn't get a kill, or something like that, that's not really gonna be like, oh, I don't trust this guy. But the main thing is you just want to find people that, like, let's say, 'cause I'm a frontliner. I'm generally the in-game leader of my team. I'm a shot caller. It's what I do. If you are that shot caller, or if they're the shot caller, you want either people that are going to follow your calls and trust your calls, or you want people who make calls that you can trust. Because if you ever find yourself making calls and your teammates aren't following them or aren't trusting them, that's a problem. And if you ever find that your teammates making a call and they're supposed to be the shot caller and you don't trust their calls, or you're second guessing it, like, constantly, and you just don't trust it, obviously that's not good. So main two things: find people that you can trust and that you can have fun with. And trust is obviously, it takes time to build up, right? Unless you're playing with friends, it's very rare that you meet someone and you're gonna play with them like once or twice. I'm like, oh yeah, I can trust this person, right? That's something that takes time building up, playing with people many, many times. However, find that find somebody that just feels good to play with, and then build off of that. Even if they're not the best player, or you guys aren't the best players, like, that's fine. No, like, this guide is not gonna make you the best player in the game, right? Like, I think being the best player in the game just takes something else. And it's if you're not the best player in the game, that's fine. I mean, who cares? I mean, there can only be one best player, right? Or one best team. 99.9999% of all the other players are never going to be the best person, right? That's just how it is. So don't like aiming for greatness is good, but just don't get lost along the way. Little fucking motivational quote for you. But anyways, moving on from that weird stuff. So the most important thing when you're coming in trios, after you have found your players, is the team comp you decide to play with. I think right now, obviously, we're probably gonna have Druid after this wipe, so the status quo is gonna change a little bit. Assuming there's gonna be balance it or buffs, nerfs, etc., etc. So things are gonna change a little bit. So what I'm gonna say now isn't super relevant for specifically next wipe. However, the general message will be. So making a team comp. Well, first of all, you have to decide what roles each of you want to play. If all three of you want to play support characters, like, yeah, technically you can do it. However, generally it's not going to work, right? Like, for example, if you want to play three bards, yeah, you can do it, but it's like, what's the point? After that first bard, you guys are kind of getting, two of you are just going to be pretty much playing a character with a buckler and a rapier that has no songs, right? Because you don't have a need to play songs because one of you's already playing them, and whichever one has the highest stat for, buff duration or whatever is getting the most effectiveness out of their songs. So if all three of you are playing them, it's still pretty much only one person's playing the songs. So ideally, you have someone that's like, I want to play either, support, double DPS, support tank DPS, hell, maybe no support. You play like, frontline DPS or triple DPS or something like that. But basically, you just want to identify the roles that each person wants to play. Generally, once again, it's going to be whatever you enjoy the most. For example, I enjoy Fighter the most. My friend that I play with enjoys Bard the most. So we have Fighter Bard, and then we build around that third slot. And the person that we play with enjoys Cleric. That's his favorite class. That's what he plays. So we have Fighter Bard Cleric, and that's our comp. And it's a pretty good comp. It's a pretty meta comp, so that's lucky for us. However, let's say for a long time, I played Fighter Barbarian Cleric, which by what a lot of people would consider was not a good comp. And this is something I played for, 1, 2, 3 wipes, I believe, even when like no one else was playing this. And then we moved on. We played Fighter Barbarian Bard. Once again, comp no one really considered meta. However, this is the things this is the characters we enjoy, and we made it work for the most part. We never really were in situations where we're like, okay, our comp's holding us back. We have to switch it. It's what we enjoyed, so we continue to play it. So whenever you're picking your comp, like I said, just keep in mind what you want to play. Ideally, you kind of want to build around it a little bit to be more viable because, I mean, generally speaking, if like let's say like I said, if you guys all three want to play Bard because Bard's your favorite character, all three of you, yeah, like that's good. You can play the character you enjoy. However, if you because the three characters you enjoy that you're playing cause you to lose, you're probably not going to enjoy it as much. But if you swap to a character, maybe you enjoy it a little bit less. Like let's say you swapped to Fighter Cleric, two of you did, and you enjoy the classes, you still like them, but not as much as Bard. However, you're winning way more often. You're probably going to have a little bit more fun, right? I mean, generally speaking, maybe not. Maybe I'm just waffling here. However, I think that is how it would be for me. Because at the end of the day, winning is always fun, right? Like playing the game is fun on its own, but everybody wants to win. Winning is fun. No one really enjoys losing. It's kind of just how it is. So after you pick your class, like so, like whatever you guys decide to play. Like I'm not gonna sit here and go through the classes. I have a different video going through. I literally have a different video where I sit here and go through all the classes, their strengths, weaknesses, all of that stuff that helps you decide your class. So after you decide your class, you load in. Let's say, I don't know, let me swap this character just to have the feel. You load in default gear. You don't have all this stuff in your stash. What do we do to start with? Well, let's say, you're new players, you could queue normals. Normals is a good way to get a feel for the game. Oh, excuse me. It's a good way to get a feel for the game. You get a feel for your class, the types of builds you want to play. The one major drawback to normals is because you're only wearing white gear, you do not really get to experience your character. And what I mean by that is a lot of characters at white level of gear play very, very differently than at full gear. And even the characters that have the same playstyle have very big differences. Because, like, for example, Rogue. Rogue in white gear compared to Rogue in gold gear is night and day. Rogue in white gear, super hard to kill anyone. Your damage is really bad. You get one shot by everything. Rogue in gold gear, kind of the opposite. You don't get one shot because you can build like 140, 150 HP. You can 1-2 shot pretty much everyone that isn't a tank. Same for Ranger. Ranger in white gear, very, very bad. You'd have very little damage. White recurve bow does nothing. White longbow does nothing. You're super squishy. You're not that fast. Your dexterity's low, so your action speed's low. Once again, Wizard, same way. Warlock, same way. Warlock doesn't have access to magical healing. Cleric doesn't have access to magical healing. So your heals are very small. You can't really sustain through fights. Cast speed is very slow. Fighters, fighters and barbs, their biggest penalty is going to be the movement speed area. You can't really reliably build any sort of tank stats while also getting movement speed. So basically, normals has a pretty big drawback of not. It gets you into the game. It's like, consider normals like a tutorial area. It's like, oh, this is what the game's like. However, when I step outside of this, I can expect a lot more to open up, right? And that's where High Roller is. High Roller is where you're getting the full game, right? You moved on from the tutorial. Now we are playing the full game. Everything's out there. And on a fresh wipe, it's not that bad to start in High Roller. If you like, that's why I would highly recommend, if you are starting out on a fresh wipe, if you're not brand new to the game, like let's say you've only played solos, right? And you're starting out to play trios, just go High Roller. Learn the map in High Roller. Don't go norms. Because the thing is, if you go norms and try to learn the game there, you're going to start falling behind people in gear level. Especially if you're trying to be competitive or leaderboard or anything. You're going to fall behind people in gear level. And it's just going to be a bad time for you. Because then whenever you swap from norms to High Roller, you're now fighting people. And yeah, sure, they're probably not in like full purple bis or full gold or anything yet. Especially like, like a week into the wipe. Actually a weekend, most people are probably in full purple that are like really sweaty. But you're going to be running into people like, greens, blues, purples, like bad purples. And they're probably going to stomp you because you're in default kits trying to gear up. But with that being said, like I said, starting in High Roller at the start is pretty good. You can snowball pretty fast. And it also gives you a really good way of feeling out how classes feel at high gear. Alright, moving on from that. I'm not really super sure there's much else to talk about. I didn't want this guide to be like super, it's not like a super in-depth guide. This is just very much a general things to know type guide when you're starting out trios. For a player that's never played trios before, I think this is pretty valuable information. If you are an experienced trios player, I probably didn't say anything you didn't already know. I'm probably not contributing much information to you. Other than that, some general tips. One major tip I recommend, this is just like for anyone, new wipe, buy your second stash tab as soon as possible. As soon as you can possibly get it, get the second stash tab. It will change your life. It's only about 3,000 gold, and that sounds like a lot, but once you're like, it will make your life 100 times easier. This third stash tab, this one costs 10,000. I would wait on this one for a while. 2 stash tabs are for the most part as much as you need. Especially with the questing change that we got midway through this wipe, where you could automatically turn in questing items. So it's not, you don't need to fill up a stash tab with quest items anymore, right? However, it's still very nice to have. It gives your stash organization, gives you somewhere to store money. And if, you're winning fights, you're snowballing really hard, you're going to have room for all that gear. Especially if you get good gear that you can't use or your friends can't use, the best thing to do with it is save it for a little later on in the wipe when people get money, and then sell it. Because then you can make a lot more money. But with that being said, I think this just about sums up the quick little guide. Like I said, there wasn't a ton to go over here. I just wanted to make it pretty quick. just to try to get new people into trios. So, with that being said, if this is helpful or you enjoyed, then happy to help. If not, sucks to suck. GG. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, because I do appreciate it. And if not, happens. Later.